Well, there wasn't a lot of fireworks at the orange and white game on Saturday, but hey, Tennessee basketball did get a commit. We're going to talk about it all.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Sunday morning, unless I put this out there late on a Saturday night. Locked On Vols. I'm Eric Kane. Appreciate you guys being here and making this a part of your morning routine, your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. Dai Dai Ames commits to the University of Tennessee basketball. We'll get into that here in segment number 2 on this bonus show. But first, let's talk about the orange and white game that, went about according to script. It's exactly kind of what I thought it was going to be. Very vanilla, didn't show an awful lot. In games like this, you're mixing and matching so much. Like, clearly when there's a quarterback competition, you had Faizon Brandon with the 1s, 2s, and coupled in with some 3s, and George MacIntyre did the same thing. I mean, Ryan Staub, to my knowledge, is the only one that didn't go with the first-team offense. But you were mixing and matching the entire way, and there were guys being held out for different reasons and all that. And, it was part practice. You started doing some individual drills, and then you went off and did some special teams work, and then the defensive line, offensive line during that time were doing one-on-ones, and then you did some 7-on-7, then you scrimmaged a little bit, and then you had a little bit of a halftime, and then you came back and did like 4 or 5 more drives, and it was done, right? And, that's kind of how it was last year. It's better than nothing, no doubt, but it was certainly very anticlimactic. It was very uneventful, if you will. But again, this is spring practice, right? This is not fall camp. They're not playing football next week. So they are very much working through a lot of different things. And how many times we overreact and, just criticize everything off what little we get to see in spring or in fall camp for that matter, like the wide receivers last year. And then they just turn out to be just complete non-worries. So, it looked like, I think the final score was 10-10 final. I believe from the orange / white, however they kept the scoring in that game. You had Ryan Staub that threw a 73-yard bomb and some busted coverage there early in the scrimmage. That was to Powell's own Carson Whitehead, I believe. Yeah, Carson Whitehead, 73 yards. I think that was 3s versus 3s. I think there was a busted coverage in there, but that was really the only highlight of the day in terms of down the field passing. Cooper Ranvier had a 50-yard field goal, so that was good. In 7-on-7 work, all 3 quarterbacks were 4 for 6. Faizon Brandon had one of his receivers drop his pass. Jordan Norman, I thought, flashed a lot. The defensive end, Leo, transfer from Tulane. He was back there. He had 2 sacks. He had a PBU at the line of scrimmage, getting his hands up and batting that ball down. I thought he was very active, and that's what you want to see, right? You want to see Tennessee's got to help, get to the quarterback. Tennessee's got to get to the quarterback off the edge, and one of your investments over the offseason, and that being Jordan Norman, you wanted to see that translate at least a little bit in spring, and that's one of my takeaways from the orange and white game. At times, I saw the defense go 4-3, which was really cool. 3 linebackers on the field on a couple of different drives. I saw that. So that, showing the versatility, 4-2-5 to a 4-3 base, taking the rover, which is what they're going to call it, I believe, which is the star, the nickelback, if you will, off the field for a third linebacker, and then taking the third linebacker off the field for that player. That was really, really kind of cool to see. I think I saw it on 2 or 3 drives, and you had a couple other notes that I'm wrote down right here. Braden Rouse had a sack. He also had a TFL. Very impressed with the freshman linebackers TJ White and Braden Rouse. Those 2 guys can play. They really can. I don't know what their snap count's going to be as true freshmen, especially in a loaded linebacker room, but those 2 guys can play, no doubt. And they flashed for me on the day, and then they were going up against the backups and all that, and that's fine, but it felt like they were all over the field at points and times. The defense overall, and Josh Heupel spoke about this post-scrimmage, he said that this really wasn't the norm in spring, but they had 2 offside penalties that resulted in first down. They had 1 hands to the face penalty that was an automatic first down. So penalties at times kind of got to the defense, and Josh Heupel again said it's a little bit disappointing that happened today, but that's certainly not been the case throughout the course of spring practice. But all in all, it was what's been the story of camp so far, and that's been the defense. And it's a bit surprising that the defense is kind of as far along as it is right now, and I think it's got a couple of contributing factors. Number one, again, it's a new defense, but you do have continuity there on the coaching staff on all three levels. You do have continuity there in terms of players from Penn State on all three levels. So that learning curve we've talked about a gajillion times is not as steep, it feels like. This defense is going up against young quarterbacks and a redshirt freshman of Faizon Brandon, a true freshman that's been on campus for 5 minutes, and George MacIntyre, the redshirt freshman, and then a true freshman that's been on campus for 5 minutes and Faizon Brandon. So going up against young quarterbacks, and so I think that they're benefit in that regard as well. Again, I don't think the offense has been bad, but they certainly struggled to finish drives on Saturday. I think 10-10 was the final score, depending on how they kept score in terms of what team gets this point, what team gets that point. Couple of explosive plays. You had Gavin Gordon that had a 69-yard run there at the end where he just absolutely ran over a guy. That was really, really cool to see. So those were the two touchdowns. Then, of course, Ranvier had one 50-yard field goal, and I think Josh Turbeville had another field goal. So that's how the points were scored. But again, like there's not a whole lot of takeaways. Again, those young freshman linebackers look good. I don't think the wide receivers had the best day. Mike Matthews didn't play. TK Keys didn't play. Joakim Dotson didn't play. Desan Brame didn't play. Chaz Coleman again, was not out there again, and he's kind of been hit or miss a lot throughout spring practice. And this is the quote that Josh Heupel had to say when asked about Chaz Coleman. In the press conference, he said, quote, "Ultimately, Chaz is dealing with some things off the field. He's got to handle that and go through the process. We're here to help him and support him in all those ways, and we'll continue to do that. That is ultimately the beginning part of his journey right now. Some things he's got to work through." So pretty much a big old word salad that says he's not been with the team, throughout the entire spring. He's been kind of hit or miss, and so we'll continue to keep tabs on that situation, obviously. It's a good thing Tennessee's not playing football tomorrow. They got to play football in many, many months from now, but ultimately that's kind of the latest there with Chaz Coleman. But obviously he did not play in this football game. So, again, they mixed and matched all these groups so much. You had, at points in times, Dylan Lewis was with the starting safeties. Idris Farouk was as well, which is no shock. But so was TJ Metcalf and Dewan Lane. Let's see here. I think it was Tim Merritt was with the starting corners along with Ty Redmond and Jadaeus Richard and Kalen Lee were with the twos for points in time. So again, I like the depth that's been created by this defense over the course of spring ball, especially in the secondary. A lot. I really, really like that. So, but ultimately, again, pretty good on third downs. Faizon Brandon, was pretty solid. Throwing the football on third downs. I know you guys want to know about the quarterbacks. And Caleb Jarrow, friend of the program, talks Lady Vols on here just about every week. He was sitting right next to me, and he was doing most of the work, but I was there to kind of answer some questions whenever he had it in terms of, hey, who did that or who did that. But he pretty much kept was keeping stats on, who completed what passes and all that. And this is what we have. Very unofficial. And remember, we don't know what they were working on that specific series. We don't know the play call. There were some drops in there. I'm putting out all these disclaimers here just because some of these numbers don't look very good. Again, there were too many mixing and matchings with different huddles. I mean, sometimes these guys were playing behind the third-string offensive line. Like, it just is what it is, right? This is very, very unofficial. Ryan Staub, 7-12, 132 yards and a touchdown. Again, those numbers are skewed off that 73-yard touchdown he threw early in the scrimmage off of busted coverage. GMAC was 15-22 for 105 yards. Those numbers look solid, but again, not a whole lot of down-the-field passing at all. Faizon Brandon, 6 for 16, 36 yards and 2 drops. Those numbers look horrible, right? He did have a couple of big drops. His receivers had a couple of big drops. But I thought GMAC and Faizon both moved really, really well out of the pocket. I thought escapability was really, really impressive. Nobody really did anything that separated themselves at all. At all. And again, you had tipping credit to the defense. I thought the defense had a pretty solid day. But those are some of the numbers that we kind of compiled unofficially. Again, like 15-22, 105 yards. Like, that looks good, 15-22, but it's only 105 yards. Like, we're hardly ever throwing it down the football field. So, Anyway, that's kind of what we have in that regard. So it's good to see a lot of the newcomers. Good to see Tennessee playing football again. That was awesome. But again, you kind of walk into the day knowing what it was, and like you weren't going to really learn anything, and you certainly didn't learn anything. Now that I'm leaving. That's what I saw from the orange and white game over on campus. Saw a couple of you guys, said hello to me when I was walking in, so that is awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. We'll shift gears and talk about Tennessee basketball, a transfer portal commit for the Volunteers that is coming up next as we continue right here on your Sunday morning Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. The NBA playoffs are here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to stay in touch and get in on all that action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That app makes it easy to follow the action, the player stats, player trends, matchups, all in one place. And during the playoffs, the extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and those key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience so much more engaging from start to finish over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So, FanDuel Sportsbook, head on over to FanDuel.com to get started today. FanDuel is where you can play your game. FanDuel, it's where you can play your game. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. It's trying to book an appointment. That's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers and emailing back and forth, wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade into a TurboTax. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can be face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting with a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled correctly. Head on over to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. That is TurboTax.com/local. All right, Tennessee basketball has a transfer portal commit. Dai Dai Ames has committed to the University of Tennessee while on his official visit over the weekend. He is a guard from Cal. Averaged a career best 16.9 points per game. Shot 37.6% from three-point land. He had 85% of his free throws. He had 12 games of at least 20 points and surpassed 25 points in 5 of those contests. Ames was a third-team All-ACC selection this past year. He becomes the second transfer portal commit for Rick Barnes for Tennessee, joining Belmont's Tyler Lumblade, both guards and both brought in here to score the basketball. Ames has played in 96 career games, 76 starts, all right? And it's been between 3 different schools. He started at Kansas State before transferring to Virginia and then ending up at Cal last year. Over the course of his career, he's averaged 10.5 points per game, shooting 37% from three-pointers with almost 300 attempts from downtown. Again, this past year, a career best 16.9 points, so about 17 points per game, 37.6% from 3, 85% from the charity stripe. We talked about this the other day. Guys that can shoot a lot, high volume free throws, and make a lot of those. I think Ames is going to be one of those guys for Tennessee. Again, started from Chicago, started at Kansas State before transferring to Virginia for the 24-25 season, and then, of course, spent last season at Cal. Started 16 games as a freshman for Kansas State. 26 of 31 games at Virginia is which he started when he played 25.7 minutes per game. He averaged 8.7 points, shot 39% on three-pointers while with the Cavaliers of Virginia. So that is Dai Dai Ames. Again, he kind of had a lot of teams lined up, right? I mean, Tennessee was one of like 5 teams that he had planned and had scheduled to go on visits for, but was on campus, and Tennessee got him to shut it down. And that's what you love to see, right? Rick Barnes did his magic. Tennessee, of course, made it competitive. You would assume name, image, and likeness offer, and being able to contend and go to a program that has been to 8 straight tournaments, 4 straight Sweet 16s, and 3 straight Elite 8s. Yeah, there's a lot to be desired about that if you are a free agent. Tennessee is hosting Loyola Chicago forward Miles Rubin on a visit this weekend. He is the rim protector, a guy that has blocked a ton of shots, 237 shots in 103 games throughout his career, starting 100 of those 103 games. Again, a guy that's just been all over the place in terms of rim protection. Also averaged at 11.3 points, 7.1 rebounds, 2.3 blocks as a junior for Loyola Chicago before he entered the transfer portal. So Miles Rubin is on campus right now visiting the University of Tennessee, and of course looking to potentially join the likes of Tyler Lumblade and now Dai Dai Ames as the transfer portal class for the University of Tennessee. You also look at Tennessee reportedly is a finalist for one player that has 3 finalists named, and it's a report from John Rothstein on Saturday morning. Tennessee basketball is one of 3 programs left in the running for Notre Dame transfer Jalen Harrelson. Harrelson has cut his list down to the Vols, Ohio State, and North Carolina. 6'7", 220 pounds, averaged 16.2 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.6 assists in 27 games for Notre Dame this year. Shot 51% from the floor, 20% from the three-point line, 67.4% from the foul line. That's not great. Want to up those numbers from the charity stripe. But again, Tennessee reportedly a finalist, down to 3 teams for big man, 6'7", 220-pound wing, I guess, in Jalen Harrelson. So, there's that. All right, and see, I'm trying to make sure I don't forget anything. Tennessee's expected to host VCU guard Terrence Hill on a visit sometime next week. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Lady Vols got a transfer portal addition from Stanford in Harper Peterson, who is committed to Kim Caldwell and the Lady Vols, joining Avery Mills and Naomi White as 2 early transfer portal commits. Now she's the 3rd transfer portal commit for Kim Caldwell and the Lady Vols. So slowly but surely, these rosters are being assembled. Tennessee basketball gets a commit on Saturday. Lady Vols get a commit on Saturday, and we will see how many more they get by the time we talk again tomorrow morning on Monday. Orange and white game, it was fine. It was solid. It is what it is. Nobody blew me away on offense, specifically the quarterbacks. But again, I wasn't expecting any of that, no doubt. Defense looked solid. Had a pretty good day, and it was fun to get back in Neyland no matter what. It was just a blast to get back into Neyland Stadium. So appreciate you guys as always. I really haven't decided if I'm going to have time to either put this out on Saturday night or Sunday morning. So if this is Saturday night and I keep saying Sunday, I do apologize. Thank you guys so much for being here. Making Locked On Vols a part of your morning routine, your first watch, your first listen each and every single day. Thank you so much, guys. If you're an everydayer, why not join the Everydayer Club, right? If you want to be an everydayer, join the Everydayer Club. Ad-free audio versions of the show, access to the Locked On merch store and all that and more, lockedonvols.supercast.com, lockedonvols.supercast.com. We will talk Monday morning. Can't wait. Thank you so much for being here. This is Locked On Vols.